So, what actually is the definition of someone who is a great leader? What is a great leader? Success? Longevity? Domination? I don't know. What is it? So, I just finished watching a film the other day and it got my mind racing, and I had so many questions come to my mind. Not even answers, but questions. And I wrote some of them down uh, to do with leadership. So, Uh, one of the first ones I came up with was, how do you define great? So when it comes up, how do you define a great leader? What do you call a what do you call a great leader? What are the traits of a great leader? What do you mean by great? So that was kind of the question: is what is great? Is it someone who's successful? Does success mean that they were a great leader? You could say that um, Xerxes I'm going by the film 300, so the Persian leader, his men were just cannon fodder. He said, "I'll as many of my men will die. I don't care as long as I win." He was very successful. If you went with someone like Genghis Khan, and if you said that all he did was just murder, rape, maybe not him specifically, but like this from what I've read bits that they just demolished everyone around them and took over most of the world. So, would you say that that was successful? Is death and destruction successful? I mean, he set out what he wanted to do, but he had great success. If you look in terms of sport, if you ruin every single one of your players' careers, but your team is very, very successful, are you a successful leader because you're bringing the team success? Um, I looked at war leaders. Does winning mean success? If you lose and you're a leader of your specific group and all of your men make it home alive and you had a bit of success, but ultimately you lost the war, did you win or did you lose? I mean, or I mean, ultimately you lost, but does that make you good? Does that make you great? Were you a great leader because you never personally lost, but your team lost? Are you virtuous? Do you look after people? If you're a hero, so you class someone who's a hero, someone who's good and selfless and um, got a lot of integrity. You go around doing good for people who need the help. Does that make you a great leader? Is it someone who, like Robin Hood, robs from the rich to give to the poor? Does that make you great? And everyone's now following you. So here's the thing: if everyone's following you, does that mean that you're a great leader because the amount of followers you have? So is it now a popularity contest? Because you could say that, um, I don't know, if you took in the world today someone like David Beckham and you said, David Beckham is immensely popular. If you made him the Prime Minister of England and everyone voted him in and everyone loved him, or the UK I should say, the Prime Minister of the UK, would that then mean that he's a great leader because everyone voted for him? Or would it be better to give it to someone who everyone hates but it makes the country stronger? Or the country gets it gets into loads of debt but everyone individually is better off. So how do you define success as a great leader? Is it a successful legacy? Is it someone who in their term as leader, to say even someone like a prime minister, you were very personally successful. You won a war, you took the country out of a recession. I mean, you look at COVID, for example. The people who were in charge around the world while COVID happened, everyone would say, well, they successfully took us out of that dangerous pandemic and we survived, so they were successful. Were they? Or were we going to make it out of it anyway? I mean, were they that successful? Longevity. Does that make you successful? If you were in charge for 5 minutes and you saved countless lives, you were very compassionate, you had lots of integrity, you made sure that everyone was looked after, but it was a very, very short tenure in charge, does that mean you were bad? If you would say you're a manager of a football team, you take over the football team, you play 5 games, or you manage 5 games, you win all 5, the team has not won that many ever before in a row, and then they sack you after a month. Does that mean you're not a successful manager because your CV now says you were sacked within a month? Or someone who's left in charge for a long, 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 long time and all they do is lose and lose and lose and lose. Is longevity success? Magnitude? So how big you are? I mean, let's say the effect you have on the people. Is the effect you have very, very impactful to the masses? Is it something that made a big difference? Did you have impact on the global scale? So is this, I mean, you could say someone like Gandhi had a big impact on the world. So did Hitler. I mean, one's positive, the other's negative. I mean, if Gandhi did all those amazing things, and I think someone made some rumor about he was with young boys, does that immediately make him a bad leader because he's basically, if he was a paedophile, does that make him a bad leader? It makes him a bad person. Does it make him a bad leader? Someone who, if they ran the country really well, made everyone lots of money, but then they were doing something like that, does it make them a bad leader? No, it makes them a bad person. So there's a big difference between a good leader and a good person. I think that's worth noting. So percentage of what you set out to do. If I set out to make, let's just say, £100 million and save 7 million lives, and I didn't. I only made 50 million, and I only saved 2 million lives. Does that mean I'm not successful because I've only achieved a less than half or less than half percentage of what I plan to do? Or because I've achieved that much more than everyone else, does that mean that I'm successful? So is it a percentage of what you planned to do? If I plan to achieve nothing and I achieve a lot, I've overachieved. Does that make me successful? Because I just fell into it. Or someone who plans and plans and plans, very thorough, shoots for the stars, makes it to the moon. That person who made it to the moon, are they successful? Because they got further than everyone else. But I mean, if you said Elon Musk wanted to go to Mars and he didn't quite get to Mars, but he set up a base on the moon, would you say he wasn't successful because he didn't achieve what he said he wanted to achieve? Or would you say, do you know what, the man achieved something that no one else could? Is he not successful? Is he successful just because he says he's going to get something and he didn't quite get it? Fame. Is fame a marker of someone successful? If you had someone behind the scenes, no one knew who they were, and they did amazing things and they looked after everyone that was under them, and but they were completely anonymous. Are they then a great leader? Do you have to be known to be a great leader? Is this someone who, I mean, they've looked after everyone, they're an amazing leader, but then they get kicked out because everyone wants David Beckham in charge because they know who he is? So followership, that power over the followers, could come from fame. So does fame make you an impactful leader? And does that impactfulness define the difference between a good leader and a bad leader. So I've put fortune. Fortune favours the brave. So if you've got a brave leader, someone who takes risks and they achieve that, they're quite fortunate, quite lucky, does that make them a good leader? Or someone who gets lots of bad luck, everyone just kind of says, oh, we don't want them in charge. I mean, is that good? Is that bad? I mean, you could say someone who's got the most amount of followers. So if you said uh, Joe Rogan and his podcast, he's got a huge amount of followers. Does that make him a someone who would be a good leader? Not really. It just means he's got a lot of popularity. Doesn't mean he knows how to look after people. I'm not saying he doesn't, but it doesn't mean he automatically is has the right personality to be selfless and look after others. But again, is that the defining characteristic of someone who is a good leader? Is it someone who looks after others, or is it someone who doesn't give a fuck about anyone, but actually achieves success on what they said they were going to do and wins all the time? If you win every war you go into, if you win every fight you go into, if you win every every business you start is just incredibly successful, but you just treat everyone like an absolute dick, are you a great leader? So you've achieved a lot of stuff. You've got a lot of followers. A lot of people that follow you, maybe because they make a lot of money by following you. Does that make you great? How do you define it? I think before you can say which traits are most important, so a lot of people would say things like assertiveness, decisiveness, compassion, integrity, um, organized. You could say tactical awareness. All these different things. It's great saying that, but what is the definition of a great leader? If you're in the military and you've got someone who cares about you, but every time he takes people out, he loses 50% of the people he's with because he just makes stupid decisions, he's a shit leader. He's a shit tactical leader. So maybe it's to do with different leaders for different jobs. So is someone who is tactically astute. I mean, do you need to be tactically good to be a good leader? No. You could send someone out who's not a leader, someone who just follows instructions blindly. Yes, they think on their feet when they're out, say in like a conflict situation, say you're out at war, but they are trained to think that way. Like a footballer, like any athlete, they are trained to think in a certain way. They don't need to be a leader out on the field. You don't. So the leader could be the person who's in charge, sat in the office, maybe not necessarily in the office, but the one in charge who's setting everything up. Could they be the leader? So I think it's the people. You need people to follow you, unless that could be because you're paying them. It could be because you'll hurt them if they don't, so they're afraid of you. There are bad ways of making people follow you, but if people choose to follow you, then you are automatically a leader. Now, your longevity and your success in what you set out to do would determine, I believe, whether you are a good leader or not. So if your objectives were make sure you win everything regardless of the cost, and you do, you're a great tactician, I suppose. If you said, I'm gonna look after everyone and make sure that everyone's happy and everyone's fed and everyone's fairly treated, is that a leader? Or are you just a a shepherd? Are you just someone who looks after everyone? Are you just a protective guard dog? What is a leader? What defines being a leader? King Leonidas in the film 300, He was in charge, decisive, made a stance to ultimately win the war, but he died to win that war. So he chose to die to get everyone to rally together. So does that make him a good leader? Because he chose to die. And ultimately, Greece won. So if Greece won because he did that, he's not around to see that success, but he galvanized the people. He brought them all together. Does that mean that he's a great leader now? Because he protected his people. He's not there to lead them. He's a great protector, but is he necessarily a great leader? Adolf Hitler, very single-minded, absolute lunatic, genocide, evil to his core. But he could rally people. Now, did they agree with him? I don't know. They might have just been going along with it because they were afraid they were going to get killed. So, might be the same with Russia now. Might be the same with Putin. I don't know. Do Russians believe what he's saying and say, yeah, I think Putin's right? I mean, if you look about it from Russia's point of view, they might say, we've been pushed into a corner because the biggest bully on the street keeps threatening us with guns and telling us we're not allowed guns. They keep pushing us around, they're bullying everyone, taking all the stuff for themselves, and then pretending to be peacekeepers. We don't like them, and we're going to make a stand and just say no, because everyone else just gets pushed around by them. So in their mind, they're standing up to the bully. So I kind of get what they're saying, but then don't invade Ukraine. I don't know what that's all about. But do people believe in Russia? Do they believe what Putin is doing is right? I don't know, but if he's convinced them he has, and he's brainwashed them into believing that Russia is right and they should be invading Ukraine, does that mean that he's a good leader because he's manipulated them into doing something bad? I mean, going and killing innocent people just for power, I don't know, but whatever it is wrong. It is wrong. So I don't. I think one of the biggest questions that needs to be asked is what. First of all, what is leadership? What is great leadership? What defines? I mean, is it success? Is it longevity? Is it growth? How much you grew as a business, as a country, whatever it was you were leader of, is that the definition of what is a great leader? Is it a shepherd? Is it someone who takes over half of the world? I don't know. Is it someone who can galvanize people together regardless of race and country? And I mean, say aliens attack the planet and then all religion goes out the window, all all this bickering over invisible lines between countries. I mean, if all that disappears and everyone's just like, right, we need to fight for humanity, not against each other, who's in charge? Who's going to go in charge? The best leader or the one with the most power? Because I'm pretty sure if the best leader was from, for example, Greece, the best military leader, are the United States going to let him be in charge? No. So now you've not got the best leader in charge again. So you've got military tacticians, might not be the greatest leaders. I don't know. I really don't know. I think this is a question that needs to be asked and needs to be answered to be able to figure out what makes a great leader. You can't figure out what makes it unless you figure out what it actually is. And I'd say that is the question. I've got a couple of interviews coming up, and I want to interview a few people, and I want to ask them that question. That exact question. How do you just define, what is your definition of a great leader? Is it ABC, everything I've just said. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'd love to know what anyone thinks because I'm not sure. I do think it needs some research. I do think I'm going to have to try and start. I might have to do huge amount of just ask that one question. Just send out some questionnaires, do some stuff online, try and get as many responses as I can, and just see what those answers are. Because I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. So yeah, I think that uh, like I said, I've got a few interviews coming up. I think they're going to be really interesting, different ones. I'm trying to find someone on mental health at the moment. Someone who can talk about trauma as a child, because I think that that can make a big difference as to someone who's naturally a great leader or not. I've got a few leadership people lined up, leadership experts, academics. I've got a couple of people with a few out there topics that I just think are interesting. Hopefully, I might be able to get something from that. But yeah, a few exciting things coming up. Really looking forward to it, and yeah, please let me know what you think. So if you got any ideas about what I've just said, if you got any feedback, anything at all, let me know. Drop me a message. Let me know what you think, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon.